Right, just about to start.
We are live.
We're live. All right. Kia ora koutou, everyone, and hi Yanni. Just checking you can hear us. All right. We have an information session. If you'd like to join me for the opening karakia. Taka te hau ki te uru, whakataka ki te tōna, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hiri ake ana te atatura, e tiro I ruka, e hau, te hei hau. All right, we have apologies for lateness from Councillor Barber, apologies from Councillor Donovan, and we have Yanni here online, all the way from the US of A. I'm disappointed you're not wearing a red, white, and blue pinstripe, Yanni.
Yeah, apologies, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah. So Yanni is. Would you like that noted? That apology. I think good that you can make it, because I know that this first topic, improving Bromley's roads, is important to you. All right. Well, if staff, if you'd like to join us at the end of the table, we've got Peter and Hannah. Excellent. So would you like to give us your presentation and then take questions?
Yeah, that'll be best.
Yeah, best. All right. Yeah, apologies from Tim. He's just in the other room. All right, we'll do that, and just making sure that you can see the presentation, Yanni, on your screen.
Yeah, I can, but are you okay if I turn the video off while they do the presentation? Because otherwise it just takes up screen that's not needed.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
All right, over to you.
Okay, thank you for starting the meeting early and making time for us. On Bromley Roads, I'm Peter Borden, the senior project manager.
One at a time, please.
Well, for transport, and Hannah Valentine is managing the engagement for Bromley's Roads. So go to the next slide.
There's a click on the table.
Oh, thank you. That
just
would help.
it's turned on the side.
Okay. When we last talked to you back in late June, 27th of June, we were talking. We were workshopping locations where we could apply the existing budget that we have, and we came down to about 17 sites, I think, on that in the workshop. And subsequent to that, we've been progressing that through as a draft scheme design. And it's more, it came out more or less along the same lines as we were discussing with you. That were mostly speed bumps on Hay Street, an intersection narrowing on Hay Street and Linwood, and then speed bumps down, or speed humps down Keeleys and Bromley, and a median pedestrian refuge outside the community centre, and a crossing point at Bromley School in there. So after doing that, we realised that we were on a very tight time frame, and hence we're here today to update you on that. And that was going to be phase one, and that's what we hope to be talking to you about. However, on a meeting we had with Transport Management on the 4th of October, it became evident with all of the condition assessments that have been done as part of the reseal, rehab and street renewals program, that Hay Street was going to change from a reseal and go into the renewals program in there.
That's excellent.
Yeah. However, that has its own programming issues, as you can understand, because it's Christchurch wide, and you're not talking just about seal, you're talking about the lower pavement layers and deep dish and So that's as far as I know on that, because that's still being programmed now in there. So that leads us to changing for this presentation and for the record, where we had phase 1 draft scheme, we're going out for, we've done a scheme design on and going out for consultation. That'll be phase 1A that we're going out for consultation on. So it was what we talked about before, minus Hay Street. So Hannah's managed to get us all organised so that we can get out for consultation from the remaining part of October on the draft scheme. And then we'll come back to the board on the 11th of November for a quick update on this is what we found in consultation. These are the changes that we might be needing to make to the draft scheme as a heads up. And then we'll be back to you on the decision meeting on the 9th of December to go for approval to take that through detailed design and construction in the summer construction season. And then we'll do the detailed design through December, and then we'll go through the procurement, hopefully by the maintenance contract or minor works contract for construction this summer. And that would be on Bromley Keeley at this stage. However, now we've got to fit in a phase 2. So that was the phase 1, including Hay Street that we talked about, down Keeley's and Bromley. Now Bromley, Hay Street is going to the street renewals program. So we're missing the funds that we were going to spend on the intersection down here at Linwood and the 5 speed humps along Hay Street in there. So this is what we're talking to you today. On there, just the speed humps down Hay McGregor's, down past the school, and then the treatments on Bromley Road here, and the 2 down Keeley's in there. What we hope we can do, with a bit of magic from Hannah and the engagement people, is that these blue items here are the next in the priorities of speed humps that as staff and designers we would have been bringing to the board had we known that Hay Street wasn't going to go through in late June. So what we're trying to do here, I know this is just an information session, so was the 27th of June, is we'd ask you to consider the information here provided by staff, that those would be the next sites that we could go to and potentially get through consultation, design consultation, and get it into construction next construction season. The same with the yellow items that we've got here. The way we would do that would be to get through draft scheme design by the 11th of November, and we could add that to the update, and then through engagement in November.
Yeah.
And we would just take the punt because there's not a lot of effort involved in detailed design and progress the detailed design, and include an update on the outcomes of the draft scheme consultation on the 9th of December. And that would be for information, not a decision, obviously. The decision would apply to construction of the yellow items here. And then we would book in to come back for approval on the detailed design in the first meeting of February, the 10th of February in there. So that's how we think we can make it work. Any questions just on the layout in there? Then we get into the detail on the slides that we dropped off.
Questions about the new bit that's been proposed, or and the existing bit. So just my question about, I mean, I support the one that's been proposed that you're asking us about today. I think that I've seen a lot I wasn't here for the last information session, but I do think that first bit of Keeley's, we might be able to take one of those speed bumps out at the bottom there, because people do come and accelerate around that corner, but I don't know if you need two, but I'd see either here nor there. In terms of the new bit, from my own observation and the comments that people have made, like those make complete sense as to the next priority.
Those were our thoughts based on the information that was in the transport action plan.
I was going to ask, in terms of what the feedback that you've received, that we've received as a wider council already, that's in line, those are in line with what has come back.
Well, those are in line with what came back for previous engagement for transport choices and earlier phases.
Before I go to Yanni, who have a few questions, I'm sure, I will just check if anyone else has any questions first.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So if we put these speed bumps and the government's not going to come and take them out?
I don't have sight of the rule change. I've been advised that's with our legal team at the moment to go through. I only have some informal comment I received this morning, so we're still going through that.
My understanding, Joe, is that it's the area-wise stuff. The government's not going to fund the like traffic platforms and stuff, but I mean these aren't traffic platforms, obviously, but the government, that if the council wants to fund those kinds of things, the council can.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not throwing money away.
I'm not a fan of throwing money away either. Anyone else? Greg?
Just checking, there's still going to be the funding for the speed bumps down Hay Street, provided the other five still go ahead, because there was concern that there wasn't the funding to cover everything.
Oh, and they would replace that. So that's not obviously an option for the board, is to hold that money from that would have been spent on Hay Street to be able to spend that at some yet to be determined point in the future as part of the renewals program.
The primary complaint around Hay Street is obviously the bumps and the uneven road surface, particularly the Linwood end, but also the entry off Linwood. So personally, I would like to see some funds held over for that, particularly the entry from or exit from Linwood Ave. Any other questions? All right. Oh, Tim?
This question, wouldn't the renewal do that anyway?
It would do, but the programming is not something that we've got sight of at the moment. So,
You would hope so. All right.
Well, my own opinion, it's likely to be a lot longer than it would have been if it's just a straight reseal, because it's stacked up against a lot of roads in similar conditions, similar challenges across Christchurch. So I'm not asking for a decision at the moment, but we'd obviously have to, I'll try and find out when that reseal program was meant to be through the board for Christmas, I think, for the renewals program.
Well, if you let us know as soon as you know. Great.
We'd like to receive a transport update at our 28th of November meeting.
Okay.
We've got all the
End of November, we should know. Right. Yanni.
Yeah, cool. So my understanding was we were going to get like a plan for the whole area. So I'm a little bit confused as to why we're identifying priorities now without doing the community consultation. Like, I thought we would come up with a plan with all the information collated and then go to the community and say, here's what we have assessed as being things that are on the 10-year plan. Here's things that we're suggesting that need to be added based on the initial feedback. What do you think? But at the moment, it feels like we're just picking winners ahead of having that community conversation. And I have sent around previously, following the last workshop, the local area traffic management plan, because as someone who's represented this area for a long time, I'm really mindful that if you do one thing on one street, you just create a problem on another street. So you need to have a holistic plan to dealing with the traffic impacts. Sorry, there's sort of like two questions in that. So one is, what happened to getting an overall plan and then as a draft and consulting on it with all the things that people have raised? And the second thing is, what sort of assessment have we done around the impacts with changes that we're proposing?
So the Bromley Transport Action Plan is still in draft, and the results of that were presented in the workshop back in June. And we agreed, we presented priorities as staff and designers, and workshop that with the board and got the guidance to the yellow ones sites that we have progressed in there. We've put a priority on getting those sites through scheme design and being able to get them through consultation and get them into construction next season in there. As that's going through, we will carry on updating the draft transport action plan with the costs that we've got. That's happening now in there. So we haven't forgotten the area-wide plan. We're using the early outcomes out of it. And whether that's finished or not really wouldn't change the priorities in there. And that's just to remind everyone, the key inputs for that Bromley Transport Action Plan were all of the engagement and consultation that we did during Transport Choices and the previous discussions that we had with the community before that.
And
Sorry, the problem is that was only there was. I don't think that was the full engagement around the Bromley Transport Plan. I'm sorry, but I'm the councillor that got the money on budget after years of community coming and saying we wanted something done in this area, and we were told we didn't have any resource. So we got the project resource in place to do the planning and some money on to do the, for some capital works, but it was not the transport choices. I mean, although there was money in for some of the projects in terms of transport choices, we didn't have a plan in place when we did that. We've never had a plan in place. And now I feel it's really, without knowing what the community think around what the priorities are, I just don't think it's right that we go so far down one or two things. But anyway, I mean, that's my feedback. I think we're missing a step of community engagement. We should have a community meeting and we should invite people with a clear plan, a draft plan, and say, here's what we know. What do you think? I think to me, that's the kind of fair thing to be done. I don't even know if the people that have been at those public meetings in the past were invited today. I mean, I hope they have been. I don't know if you've got the list. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to take away from the work that you're doing. I guess my initial concern around the process is we're missing that point.
Yanni, can you, sorry, Jackie had her hand up and you've summarised your feedback. So, Jackie?
I just want to say I did attend the Bromley community meetings when we discussed this whole area, and these were the streets that were actually raised by the community. From my perspective as another Linwood member, is that while we may consider having some kind of community meeting around the consultation for this tranche 1A to provide some feedback when the consultation is out, one of the top frustrations is that nothing happens, and people say, when are we going to get? So if we wait until we have a full plan, we're just gonna stop things from happening. So my view is that we should proceed with consultation, and that we should make sure that we engage people, in terms of where the traffic bumps are. But we already know enough, per what Jackie said. So yeah, I think that we can meet somewhere in the middle there and try and have an in-person. Well, I think we can easily organise an in-person meeting for consultation. But no way I'm going to support waiting until we have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. That's where I stand, I think. Greg?
Is it even able just to have one map with highlighting potential options in the future to show other roads as part of the consultation? So while we're still consulting on this first part, saying there is a wider thing and there's other parts, to be looked at in the future.
We did have a map like that presented to us
Yeah.
twice.
We could include it. So if we were to consult as planned, so on this, it would be something along the lines of what don't you like about this plan, what don't you like about this plan overall, how do you feel, anything else? And then we could have a link to the full current draft of the plan and say, have you got any thoughts on our priorities?
Yeah, I think that just
That way.
follows on more what Yanni's talking about, showing it's a wider area thing, not just, we're focusing on these small spaces at the moment, it's actually talking about the whole area. And there is other steps to come in the future, but this is where budget sits to be able to achieve something in the short term and have other things that are going to come beyond that as well.
Yeah, you also, there's just a bit of a risk around starting to, when you look at a plan like this, if I was to see something outside my house that we're not consulting on right now, that there's no funding for, it might be years and years down the track, and if I'm an anti, I'm going to see red. And I suppose that's good because it lets you know, but it does raise expectations, both good and bad, that there's something will happen. So I would obviously put a lot of disclaimer around that this is what we're working towards, but I just want to raise it as something.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you have the circles, it doesn't narrow it down to one specific site. There's other options in the future. And it's going to bring more people into the engagement discussion as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
we could do that.
that's a good point around sort of having, rather than having any kind of preliminary design, just having like intersections or know that there are.
It's something similar to that.
Yes.
A lot more dots.
Yeah. Just as I do think, to reiterate what I said before, I do think having a drop-in session or something at the Bromley Community Centre as part of the consultation process.
Okay. Yep.
Worthwhile. Yanni, you got your hand up for something else?
Yeah, sorry, I just was a bit concerned about you saying that we were stopping stuff from being done. This project has been repeatedly delayed, like I don't know how many times. Like every time frame I've been given for this project, we haven't met. So I'm just like, I want to see stuff happen. Don't get me wrong, but I do sort of take exception to that. This draft plan was supposed to be consulted on the start of the year.
Yanni, wait. Let me respond to that then. Forgive me if I was incorrect, is that you're suggesting that we go out for, do more consultation on a wider area plan, which would mean inevitably we would be delaying what's being put in front of us to provide feedback on today. The staff are nodding their heads, they agree that would end up delaying it. Now, what I'm trying to do...
Can I get clarity there
on
why that plan didn't go out when we were told it would go out?
Yanni, just hold on. What we're trying to do, and I think that Jackie and Greg have indicated, is to try and find a way where we maximise engagement while proceeding as much as we can. So now you want to clarify something?
I mean, there's no point looking back, right? But I was always under the impression, based on previous advice that we'd received, that the draft plan would be consulted on in the first quarter of this year. Now that didn't happen, but I was never under the impression that we would go ahead with discrete individual projects ahead of actually coming up with the draft plan for consultation. So I don't know when that changed, but that was never my understanding of what the process was.
Okay, we've got a few.
If things have been delayed, then are we able to understand why they've been delayed? Because I don't think it's fair to put it on us as elected members when it's not being decisions that we've made that have led to it.
Well, I think, from my perspective, I'm just looking at it from practical. I don't really care at this point who's to blame. I just would like to see some progress in Bromley. Now, we've got just a few minutes left. I'll pass over to staff to provide to reply to what you've said. If you can address, you might not have the information, but if you can address what Councillor Hanson.
And can I just add one?
Hold on. Please, I've asked staff to respond. You can ask a follow-up question, and then we'll need to go to the next item.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, could you repeat the question?
It was a question Yanni raised an issue around the plan to be consulted on in the first quarter of this year from a traffic plan, and wanted to know why that didn't happen. Can you clarify, Yanni, the questions? So just the questions, please.
There's been repeated delays on getting the plan.
Question.
What I thought was the plan that was going out for consultation. My understanding was it was going to go out the start of this year, first quarter of this year. That got delayed. But then I'm just trying to understand how the individual projects are leapfrogging ahead of the overall plan, when I was under the impression that we were going to consult on the overall plan.
Right.
And if that plan has been delayed, why is that plan getting delayed?
There was a change in scope of plan when the transport choices were no longer funded. We took the decision to bring those transport choices intersections, half a dozen intersections are in there, into the transport action plan, reprioritise everything and see where they sat in priorities, because those intersections were very expensive. They delivered
The new budget, eh?
Yeah, a different new budget.
So it's government policy change.
And that we brought that plan, the results of the draft plan, to you for workshopping on June 27th. And they were the results of 120 sites in there. We have not finalised the report around the plan to be able to present it to you, but we are using the results out of that plan, the draft plan.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this item, but I think you've heard from the board as a whole what the position is. So we look forward to hearing back from you and a like a drop-in session or something in Bromley. That would be great.
Tap it up now.
Right. Excellent.
Thank you for your time. Look, any guidance you choose to pass on in terms of actions, that would be appreciated. Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Now we have Lasma here to talk about improved community board reporting. All right, Bridget.
Hello, I'll just turn this. Is it turned on?
Red light will come on. Just push it. Just push it. No, the other one.
The other one.
Yep, that's it.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Bridget. I come from the customer services area in a team called the Operational Process and Insights team. I came here a few months ago and talked a little bit about reporting. And since then have done a little bit of improvement, got some more feedback and things. So I thought I'd come here today and just show you about what I call the new improved reporting that we're doing, which is live now, and get some feedback from you as well. So the first thing that we've done, the old version I thought had a lot of, this is being reported, this kind of hasn't had a lot of different numbers and things. So we kind of made it really simple. The 3 questions that I was trying to how many of those did we respond to in the time frame we promised that we'd respond to it to? So they were the 3 that I tried to keep in mind as I was doing it. So what we've got is sending it out once a month, just looking back that previous month and just letting you know how many reported tickets based on the ward, the current ward that you're in. And beside that, how many of those tickets were resolved within SLA. I guess I should also point out, when I say SLA, I'm not meaning what you probably think of in terms of a contractual SLA with CityCare or someone like that. Yeah, exactly. What we're talking about, I guess, is more the expectation SLA that we've given back to the customer. So when a customer puts in a ticket, and they get back a thank you very much. Here's your ticket number, and here's when we're going to respond to, based on that expectation that we've set for them.
That's, or is that the one in the LTP? Like, or is it one that is it simply we'll get back to you within this time frame? What I mean is, where do the SLA targets come from?
The SLA targets come from the unit. They're connected to the LTP, but they're not exactly the same, because there's very different SLAs for all sorts of different things. It's not quite as overarching, I guess, as the LTP is. But B, what we also use it for is changing them occasionally, because we feel like the best thing is to give the correct expectation, even if it's not necessarily great. The worst thing is to give someone an impression it'll be finished by a date and then not do it. It's better to give them a more realistic date as well. So we work really closely with the units, and if we do see things blowing out, we work with them to make a plan to bring it back down, but also make a plan to change it for a little bit so that the customers are getting the right idea. And we don't do that just by ourselves. We make sure that of course the unit leader and head of department and things are involved in that as well.
SLA stands for?
Service level agreement, sorry. Service level agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, what we've agreed with the customer and the units.
So the text we get to say should be done by such and such time, that's that.
That's that, yeah. That's the agreement behind it, which says when it's this question to please do this, this is how long we say we've got to do it in.
Yep. Alex.
Let me know if I'm jumping the gun a bit, because it may or may not be, but in regards to the contractual SLAs, do we track those as well?
The units track them. We as customer services don't, because there's a lot of nuances and things on those as well. And we're focused, I guess, on the other side of it.
So, for example, if a customer complained about the pothole, I know that's sitting here 72 hours or less, depending on the pothole. No, probably you guys would track it in case it's not within those requirements. Is there any way, without going to the unit or lodging an agreement, for example, that your unit or your team would have that information?
We wouldn't have that information. Yeah.
So there's two, Alex. There's the contractual one, and then there's the one in the LTP that the council's service level will be to the community, and we contract on the basis that to make sure the contractor delivers on that. Yeah. All right.
So we're looking at the percentage resolved with an SLA, and just also so you know, that's dynamic as well. So it will change. We send this out the first or second working day of the month, but obviously as the next month, as these ones within the month before gets closed, then that percentage will change, just to be looking at it and wonder why it's not always the same. And I also thought it might be useful just to see the channels that they're coming in from as well, whether they're phone, through SnapSend Solve or website. And then we also show the top 10 object categories. So you have an incident category, which I guess is the higher level, wheelie bins, for example. Then you have the object categories under that. So under wheelie bins, it could be a damaged bin, missed street, those sort of things. So it gives you an indication out of that month, approximately how many and what are the top 10 queries and requests that people have been talking about. When we say programmed work over there on the left of 2.26%, that's the ones where the units puts them onto a program of work to be done later. And we were getting feedback from customers that it was getting completed, but they'd look out the window, potholes, and they were still there. So now what happens if they use the right status code, it'll send an automatic notification back saying, thank you very much. We've put this on a program of work and it should be completed within, I think it says around 3 to 12 months, because at that stage, we don't know exactly when it will be completed. The next step is to make sure we do close it off completely. But at this stage, at least we're going back and saying, we've got it, thank you. We're not just going to close it without doing anything about it. So that's kind of the page that you always got, but new and improved a little bit. And the next one that I put on is those top 10 reasons that you saw before, with the percentage of SLA breached and SLA met. So you can see that for a lot of them, this is again just for the month at that point in time. You can see a lot of them are reasonably good, but litter here is one that we'd be working with 67.77% within SLA. And then on that, the next thing that I've put in is a bit of a time series analysis. This isn't the top 10, this is just the top 5, because otherwise it just gets too messy. But there's a correlation, right? Like you can see here with litter, that there's been a big increase in those previous months. And so, if you saw a drop in the service levels, wouldn't be an excuse, but you'd at least be able to see that correlation why, and we'd be able to work with the unit to try and get that back under.
I'm just wondering why the property files are liver on here. That's a paid service.
It is a paid service, but it goes through Hybris as a ticket to be reported to us for a property or a limb. So we just pick it up from that data.
Sorry, Tim, you jumped ahead of Alex, who had dutifully raised his hand. So Alex has a question too.
And once again, you may be coming to it, but in regards to the last page where you sort of had a summary, do you do like sub tags? So for example, roading and footpaths, would you have a sub tag below that says footpath crumbling or pothole or within that?
We do have sub tags, but they're still quite high level. So with what you're talking about, you'd have roading and footpath, and then you would have potholes, but you wouldn't have any sort of further information on that. Yeah. And then here's what I'm kind of most proud of. What we've also done is put in a map based on your ward, and we've grouped all the different tickets so you can kind of see where the hot spots are. And the feedback that I got was if someone asks a question and says, hey, we'd really like this, it's really hard to kind of make a determination where, what, and what's happening. We're hoping this might help you do that, because when we send it out in a static form, you'll get this and you'll get them all grouped, but your advisors have access to this map and they can drill down. So if you wanted to say, for example, hey, what were those 8 in Parklands, which you can see were damaged bins based on the legend, then we'd be able to look and be able to tell you specifics on those tickets and so on and so forth. Same with we could break down at 359 and keep zooming into the different levels so that you can kind of keep seeing it broken down until you got to ticket by ticket, if you wanted to kind of see that and have a look, or something here you wanted a few more questions about. So that's at this stage what we're sending out. Is there any questions or feedback that people would like to give?
Just want to say those 3 purple are very similar. Perhaps they should be different colours.
Yeah, pink.
Oh, I see the ones you mean. Trees, graffiti and litter, yeah.
It was 106, 219 are similar.
It may be a Power BI limitation, because I would have thought that too, but I can definitely go back and double check. That's no problem.
Yeah. Even standing here, I can't tell the difference between
Trees and
can you like lines?
trees is dark enough that I can kind of tell the difference.
trees and graffiti are so similar.
Mm.
Yeah, but just a bit. No,
It's just someone reports it.
Joe and then Alex and then Greg.
Hi, thanks for that. The reporting for graffiti, do the reports that go directly to like the likes of Orion and Chorus get included in these stats, or is it just to council?
The answer is it depends. If it comes through us, goes through into Hybris and goes through, then yes, they will be recorded. But if it goes through Snapsend Solve, it won't even come through the council. It'll go straight through to Orion or so on and so forth. So we never see those particular tickets.
Oh, okay, because I know that there should be a lot more graffiti reports than what's listed on there. And also in regards to the litter and units trying to be more proactive, are you finding they are being more proactive about it?
I'll be honest, I think there's still a lot of work to do. I think that we've got some really good people looking, but at a really granular level. They're looking at tickets and so on and so forth. But what we should be trying to look at as well is, like I say, the strategic kind of, hey, this is the trend, or this is what we're seeing. And so this is why we're trying to socialise. They get something very similar, not exactly the same as this, but same data and same sort of format, to show them those sort of trends and things, because I guess that's partly why this team was set up. We can see that in customer services often before the teams can. We can kind of hear that litter is starting to increase and people are ringing back and saying, why haven't you done anything about that?
Is there a way for a correlation of the amount of reports, litter reports, before we took the bins away compared to now?
bare lagoon.
Like a lot of the parks and the beach, we've had so many bins removed. And now are people actually littering more because of that?
We could look at litter versus litter from a certain period to a certain period and see if there's any difference. But what we don't know, and what's quite a valid question I'd expect people to ask next is, what sort of litter is it? Is it the bin litter, or is it fly tipping, or is it leaves on the road that a lot of people will put through as litter as well? So at the moment, we don't have that level of detail, because the idea, I guess, rightly or wrongly, is that we're starting high to then get those questions and things being asked. But we can certainly, we can always look from one time period to another and see, and you should see, if you think that's happening, then you should see an increase in litter in general anyway, right? And you'd be able to see it by area as well, where you could see where the bins were taken away and see those, because you could then have a look at 2023 September, 2024 September.
Yeah, thank you.
Alex, Greg, and then Yanni.
Yeah, I've got 3 quick ones, I promise. I might be. I'm going to turn this on. So my first question was in relation to the litter, following up on Joe's point. There's no sort of sub or tags within litter, as there would be with roads and footpaths in regards to potholes. There isn't litter like fly tipping versus normal litter? There's
not, because litter is, I guess, a subcategory in itself, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And it's not likely that we would be able to get that.
It's very, I mean, yes, we could, is the answer, but then it becomes very, very manual for all the different kind of, I guess, things that you're doing. You're then kind of, because a lot of it comes through the website, right? And people, they don't know what fly tipping is. So what happens is you do tend to kind of get less robust data the deeper you go, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Cool. The second question was in regards to that information. So when, sorry to go back to potholes, but when there's a pothole and we snap and solve it, and it's not repaired within 72 hours, but it meets the criteria of NZTA's guidelines to be repaired within 72 hours, is there any way that we as elected members, without logging a LGWEMA through this tool, there's no way that we can see those when those contractual obligations are being met through this tool?
Not through this tool,
Is
no.
there any possibility that we could get that through this tool? From, for example, when it goes to the units, they go back to the ticket, no.
Potentially commercially sensitive too. So you wouldn't even get under the LGWEMA.
So if it's not commercially sensitive, is there a way that the unit can go back to the ticket and sort of, for example, add a different, like a contractual, so in regards to files?
There is, but again, it would be manual ticket by ticket.
Right.
What the unit could do, if they wanted to, they can get a list of all the tickets from the time it was reported to the time it was completed, and then have a look, and then they could balance. That would be a really easy way of them being able to balance that against the contractual obligations. But again, I think for potholes, please don't quote me, but I think some of them are on that. We put it on a program of work, because that was I think one of the ones where we're getting the most feedback from. So they would complete it and they would close it, but they actually fix the pothole because they've put it on a program of work to fix it when it's not in winter and so on.
I guess as elected members, it's concerning if it does need to be repaired within 72 hours within that contractual obligation from our contractors, and the council has to repair it within 72 hours under NZTA if it meets requirements. So I guess it's hard for us to tell if that's happening or not happening. But I guess it's just, it's what it is.
I mean, not that it's unimportant, but it's the council makes the decision around awarding contracts. I mean, looking at the park stuff, one of the reasons why the contracts have been brought back in-house is because the service levels weren't being met. So,
I got that.
And I think to put your mind at rest a little bit, hopefully, there's also different priorities. There's immediate, urgent, normal, and low. And depending, we have a set of questions that we ask, and depending on that, we'll tag it. And that priority influences the SLA. Like immediate might have 4 hours and normal might have 2 days, for example, or something. And then also if it's immediate, then we also often will ring through. So if it's a health and safety issue, for example, all those sort of things, it's one of the first questions we always ask. Yeah.
Depends on the weather too.
It does, yes, I know that they have.
Right, and then my very last question really quickly. So in relation to Joe's other query about sort of when it's sent away to other providers like Steps Inside, when it doesn't go through the hubris system, is there any way, hybris, do we get
Hubris bad, hybris.
do we get that data at a higher level within council so we know where we can allocate those resources? So if we get lots of tagging in one area or lots of litter in one area, litter might not, but tagging, for example, do we still connect with those other companies or organisations to sort of share that data? Do you know? Or is it outside?
I know we connect with them because customer services does if they get someone call in or through the website.
Yeah.
And then they'll send it through to Orion and they'll ring them and make sure that, especially if it's a why is showing or something like that, they'll make sure. Why I'm hesitating is because no, we don't get the data but I'm not sure whether we could ask Snaps and Solve for the data or not, whether they think that might be, whether they'd give it to us or not.
Be something I'd be quite keen to look into, but thank you, I appreciate it very much.
They did give us information on Lime scooters, so I could double check that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Greg and then Yanni.
Just one of the things seen on this one here for the damaged bins, but quite particularly in certain areas, does that get fed back to the bin operators to see if it's one operator in particular that needs further training, or?
To be honest, not officially yet, but we meet with the resource recovery team every month and we're showing them this and asking them to go back and tell them that, because you're right, you can see certain patterns or things like that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yanni.
Thank you. I just had two questions. One was,
Sorry, we can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, still
Hello?
can't hear you, sorry.
He's not muted.
He's not,
So-
yeah.
Can you hear me?
You might have a hardware issue
I've
because,
got a question.
No, that's okay.
I've got one question.
all right, you can go after. Well, you just try and figure out your sound and Tim will have a question.
It's about a reporting one. I was just wondering, the public report stuff, and I'm wondering, is there a way of encouraging staff to report things? Because I was thinking about rubbish being dumped on Mason's Road, Cuthbert's Road. It's been there for 3 weeks, and I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to see if it disappears before I get to do it, because so many staff and council employees and other employees go past. So is there a way that council staff and employees will be encouraged to be more proactive?
Maybe we could look at putting it in the newsletter, the CE newsletter that comes out. We do get a lot of reports from staff, though I know that because I keep seeing, these names that come up a lot, and people do use it a lot. Knowing how, because it's very easy, isn't it? Snaps and Solve, take a photo, you send it through in the
I
way.
just find out, explain where it is and everything else.
Okay.
Look, just picking up on that, like I do think that we as a wider council need to do some effort to encourage people to report things, because like proportionately the number of people we have working for the council compared to the population is nowhere near as high as it used to be. Yeah. So you don't have council staff everywhere. We have more roads, we have more services, we have more bins, we have more everything. Like, well, if everybody, if members of the public, if council staff and elected members are all reporting staff, that provides a huge amount of information. And like more often than not, when people report something, it gets sorted out. And that would be I think it would be a good experiment to put a drive into things. It is going to create more work, but that will also tell us where the work is needed.
Yeah, I will say though, we do have the highest use of Snaps and Solve, higher than Auckland. We are the most used, and I mean, it's gone really, really great. So we do get a lot through. Yeah. And Snaps and Solve also, to every person that's kind of signed up, do send out hey, make sure you do this or this or this. So they, from their perspective, they do that. But funnily enough, we're actually talking to them about talking to us first, because, for example, they've just had a overhead vegetation and things like that. And poor parks are like, crikey, we're full on mowing at the moment. We'd love this to happen, but just not quite now. So it's also having a look at the right time and, as you say, the resources to make sure when we have what Snaps and Solve tends to do is have a bit of a targeted, hey, let's really have a look at something.
But the good thing about it is we go back to 2011 equate. I did a calendar for 2011. On the back of it, I put, here's a street sign like this, phone this number for this hole in the concrete, ring this number and ring this number and ring this number. When the quakes happened, we put one number. It was brilliant. So, and with the computer system that we've introduced after the quakes, it's just got 1,000 times better. So we're going forward at a huge rate.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just got some questions through. It might be a problem at our end. Yanni hasn't been able to, well, we can't hear him, don't know what that is. So 2 questions. So can we please get a list of the noise hotspot locations? And can we get it by ward? And also be keen to have the trends and shopping trolley stats would be good.
So
Thanks.
your advisor can look in there, sort on noise complaints and show you based on whatever time frame you want to filter it on where they've come up. That's absolutely possible within this.
So we can do that, or
I will phone you though.
Okay. We have already talked about this. I'm not taking this in the end of us.
What about the shopping trolley question?
The shopping trolleys, again, it's the same thing, because when you go through Snaps and Solve, it's not coming through the council at all. The shopping trolleys are going through the Kmart or New World or wherever it is and going directly to them as well.
So,
Unless someone contacts us through the website or through phone or something, if it's Snaps and Solve, which they often use.
so we'll be able to get them, they're just not necessarily the full picture because of Snaps and Solve's not recorded in this.
But also Pick and Save has their own code on it.
Yeah.
So go straight to them, not the council.
So, but if everything, if anything that comes from Snaps and Solve that goes to the council, it would seem like a good idea that it integrates with this within the system somehow.
If it comes through the council, it does, and it's all within the system. Absolutely, all shows in here, and it's within that because it makes a ticket straight off. It's only the ones where it's been set up because they're not a council asset when it goes to the owner of that asset where we don't see them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we have any further questions? Did you have any more of your presentation?
No, thank you. That was hopefully gives you a little bit more information, a bit more idea of what's happening.
Yeah.
I was just going to follow up on what Tim was saying about people having to report. Then a lot of people are kind of like, oh, why should we have to report it? Sort of attitude. If you know what I mean.
How do they? Sorry, this is genuinely perplexed here. How do they think the council knows if nobody tells them?
Yeah.
Like we don't, like council doesn't have CCTV footage or don't have people driving down every road every day.
But you know, as Tim was saying before about people being more proactive within stuff in reporting things.
Yeah.
So whether that's something we can picked up or it should be being done already.
I guess this is something that really sort of gets my goat. It's like we a democratic society, it's all of us. It's the roads, they belong to all of us. Like we should all pay our part. Like you can't just like expect who like how do people expect that it's going to happen?
Yes. Well, I really encourage people to report, as you know.
Yes, I know.
You know, and you know, but you do get that feedback from a lot of people as well. And it would be good to just have that, you know, a little bit more proactivity, so that people are noticing that it's being done and they don't get to report it.
Somehow, right?
Yeah.
But I think often we shouldn't be reporting out, we should just be picking it up in our own bins.
Well, there's that too.
The size of the rubbish on the heap doesn't fit in my bin, but I have connections on there.
Just got another couple of minutes, but you know, like the other day I logged something. There's a big pile of rubbish on the corner of Hay Street and Linwood Ave, including a scooter, but bunch of rubbish that someone's dumped. Like, and I can't pick that up. I don't have a car that's big enough to fit all that bloody rubbish in it. But it's just like if we all do a bit, and that means that can be as little as notifying the council. It's just like I think things would improve, and instead of being like, oh, bloody council needs to fix that, make sure the council knows. You can say bloody council after you've told the council nothing is happening, but until that point, I'm like, wow, man,
I genuinely think that some people really, as you say, do believe that we have trucks going down every road looking for potholes at a certain cadence, and you know, people genuinely do think that there is people out there double checking for all this, and it's really nice when you can have a conversation through customer services and talk to them about how that doesn't happen, and you know, really constructively about rates and you know how your rates bill would increase so much if we did that, and so we rely on citizens and things like that. And once people know, you can get them to, you know, often they'll come around fairly quick.
That's, yeah.
I can make it yes
Alex,
or no.
we've got a minute to go.
Yes, no, first of all, quick question, yes, no, sorry. Is the majority of our resources allocated based on snaps and sold in a hybrid system? Like, is that?
35%. Reported out.
Yeah, but in terms of the budget and stuff, like in terms of road renewals, in terms of where we're outputting more bins, is most of that based on hybrids?
I couldn't tell you that, I'm afraid. I don't know how they
setting enough budget to sort of promote that with, because I know that lots of people know about snaps and sold, and I think it's wonderful, and I'm just trying to think of how, talking really fast, elected members can help promote it more. Would giving, I'm not a councillor, but would giving sort of your team more money in the long-term plan help with that, or is it just a behavioural change that sort of?
Again, I think I'd probably prefer the head of department to answer. Sarah is very unwell today, so that's why she's not here. I mean, from me personally, I think we've got enough budget. I think, again, it is just people knowing. But as I say, because we've had such a great uptake on Snaps and Solve, I think my feeling is that most people that would use it know about it and do use it. I think that we can do a lot of things, and one of the things we're investigating is getting Snaps and Solve to provide a lot more input back to people, because part of the feedback that we're getting is through Snaps and Solve we don't hear back, so we're trying to make sure I understand the reasons why and that, and I think that will encourage those that are on it to do more if they feel that more engaged and what, you know, they can see that completion to it. But I don't necessarily know whether it more promotion would get more people to do it, if that makes sense.
That's
yeah.
quite helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Going back to us. Well, we've got since we're having a break, we should finish with karakia, but before we get break for half an hour. Kia tau, te rangi Māori o te rangi ki tu e honei, o papatua i tapu tōnei, o te taiao e awhinei, ki runga i a tātou. Tihei